When was the last time you told someone how you're really doing? Not what you're working on, not what you're building, not what goals you're chasing, not what responsibilities you're carrying. I mean, genuinely told someone how you're doing beneath all of it. For many men listening right now, that question is surprisingly difficult to answer. Not because there isn't anything going on internally, but because somewhere along the way, many of us learned to stop talking about it. We learned to keep moving, to stay productive, to stay focused, to handle our problems privately and carry our burdens quietly. And while that mindset can build resilience, it can also create something far more dangerous: isolation. Today I want to talk about one of the most overlooked struggles facing modern men: the silent loneliness of men. Not the loneliness that comes from having nobody around, not the loneliness of physical isolation, but the loneliness that can exist even when life looks successful from the outside. The loneliness that can exist inside a marriage, inside a career, inside a busy social life, inside a life that appears completely fine to everyone else. Because loneliness is not simply the absence of people. Loneliness is the absence of genuine connection. A man can be admired and still feel unseen. He can be respected and still feel unknown. He can be needed by everyone around him and still feel completely alone. And for many men, that is exactly where they find themselves. Modern life has given us more ways to communicate than any generation in history. We can instantly connect with people across the world. We have social media, messaging apps, online communities, and endless streams of content. Yet despite all of this connectivity, men are reporting higher levels of loneliness than ever before. Why? Because communication and connection are not the same thing. You can exchange messages all day and still feel disconnected. You can sit in a room full of people and still feel alone. You can have hundreds of contacts and nobody you feel comfortable calling when life falls apart. The issue is not proximity. The issue is depth. Many men have relationships built around activities, responsibilities, and surface-level conversation. Very few have relationships built around honesty. Very few have relationships where they can openly discuss fear, grief, uncertainty, disappointment, or doubt. And when those conversations disappear, loneliness begins to grow. The challenge begins early. From a young age, many boys receive the same message: be strong, don't complain, handle it yourself, push through, keep going. There is wisdom in these lessons. The world needs resilient men. Families need dependable men. Communities need men who can carry responsibility. But problems arise when resilience becomes emotional suppression, when strength becomes silence, when self-reliance becomes isolation. Many men begin to believe that showing struggle will somehow reduce their value. They fear that vulnerability will make them appear weak, so they hide what they are experiencing. They wear a mask. The mask says everything is fine. The mask says they have it under control. The mask says they don't need help. At first, the mask feels protective. Eventually, it becomes exhausting, because maintaining an image requires constant effort. And over time, the gap between who a man truly is and who he presents to the world becomes larger and larger. The tragedy is that the very thing he believes is protecting him is often creating the loneliness he wants to escape. Because nobody can truly connect with a mask. People can only connect with the truth. This loneliness often shows up in unexpected ways. Sometimes it appears as anger. Sometimes it appears as emotional numbness. Sometimes it looks like overworking. Sometimes it becomes addiction. Sometimes it becomes endless self-improvement. A man convinces himself that if he can just make more money, build more success, achieve another goal, or become more accomplished, the emptiness will disappear. But achievement cannot replace belonging. Success cannot replace brotherhood. Accomplishment cannot replace connection. Many men spend years trying to solve an emotional problem with external achievements. And no matter how much they achieve, something still feels missing. Because what they actually need is not another accomplishment. What they need is connection. This brings us to one of the greatest losses in modern society: brotherhood. Throughout history, men faced life together. They worked together, built together, served together, learned together, suffered together. There were natural environments where meaningful bonds formed. Today, many men spend more time interacting with screens than they do with trusted friends. We have followers, but not brothers. We have audiences, but not communities. We have information, but very little intimacy. And there is a difference between friendship and brotherhood. Friendship is valuable. Brotherhood is essential. A brother knows your struggles. A brother challenges your excuses. A brother tells you the truth when nobody else will. A brother remains present when life becomes difficult. Every man needs people in his life who know who he really is, beneath the accomplishments, beneath the confidence, and beneath the image. But there is an even deeper layer to this conversation. Sometimes a man is not only disconnected from others, sometimes he is disconnected from himself. He becomes so focused on surviving that he forgets who he is becoming. He wakes up, works, handles responsibilities, solves problems, pays bills, repeats the cycle. Years pass, and eventually he realizes he has been living on autopilot. He has lost connection with his deeper purpose, his values, his calling, his vision. And when a man loses connection with purpose, loneliness becomes even more intense. Because purpose gives direction to struggle. Purpose creates meaning inside hardship. Purpose reminds a man why he continues moving forward. Without purpose, even success can feel empty. Without purpose, life can begin to feel like an endless list of obligations. So how do we begin changing this? The first step is honesty. Ask yourself difficult questions. What am I feeling that I haven't acknowledged? What am I carrying alone? What conversations am I avoiding? What burdens have I convinced myself I must carry by myself? The second step is intentional connection. Do not wait for brotherhood to appear. Create opportunities for it. Join communities, join groups, join organizations built around growth, service, faith, discipline, or shared purpose. Meaningful connection rarely happens by accident anymore. It must be pursued intentionally. The third step is learning emotional awareness. A strong man is not someone who feels nothing. A strong man is someone who understands what he feels and responds wisely. Strength is not suppression. Strength is awareness. Strength is honesty. Strength is courage. And finally, reconnect with purpose. Spend time reflecting on the man you want to become. Not just what you want to achieve, who you want to become. Because purpose transforms struggle into growth. Purpose transforms suffering into meaning. Purpose gives direction to life. As we close today's episode, remember this. The silent loneliness of men is not weakness. It is not failure. It is not something to be ashamed of. It is often the result of carrying too much for too long without genuine connection. You were never meant to carry every burden alone. Not your fears, not your grief, not your doubts, not your struggles. The strongest men throughout history did not stand alone. They belonged to something larger than themselves, a mission, a brotherhood, a community, a calling. So I leave you with one question. What is one thing you've been carrying alone that no longer needs to be carried by yourself? Think about it, journal about it, reflect on it, and if someone comes to mind who can be trusted, reach out. Because the goal is not to become a man who needs nobody. The goal is to become a man strong enough to let himself be known.